Welcome back to Round the Studios, Scottish history from a different perspective, with me, Karen Mealy. The podcast will explore history through a variety of individuals, historical events, and artworks. It will also act as a living archive capturing the stories of today. On this episode, I'll be talking to my wee pal, Niall Murphy, who is the director of Glasgow City Heritage Trust. Neil is an architect with over 25 years' experience in heritage conservation and community issues with a focus on Glasgow. Although we focus on Scottish architects, we talk about a range of topics, including how women should be recognised, celebrated, and remembered within the architectural profession. We also talk about representations of the city, Glasgow, in fiction books, and even Alistair Gray gets a wee mention. So, you may be asking yourself, why are we focusing on Scottish women architects? This is a profession that barred women until the early 1900s from practising and training in a professional capacity. Even Glasgow School of Art did not allow women admission to the architectural course until 1905. However, it isn't to say the women didn't partake in creating architectural structures out with a professional capacity, and there is evidence of this throughout history. Today, there's still a lack of representation and recognition for some of the work that has been achieved by amazing Scottish women architects. Even the new Biographical Dictionary of Scottish Women, which was published in 2018, and this is a fabulous publication and it's not a slight, only lists 3 architects in the whole book. If you're interested in finding out more about the work that's been carried out to recognise and remember architects in Scotland, please check out Voices of Experience and MIA. Both have websites and Instagram pages. Our chat really focuses around 3 architects: Zara Hadid, Kathryn Findlay, and Jude Barber. Although focusing on Scotland, we talk about architects who have buildings in Scotland, but also connections worldwide. Kathryn Findlay, although born in Forfar, has connections with Japan. And we talk about Zaha Hadid, who is an Iraqi-born architect, but has several buildings in the UK, including the Riverside Museum. I hope you enjoy this chat today, and hopefully this podcast episode is one step forward in improving the recognition and visibility of the wonderful architects in Scotland.
It's around the studios. Professor Bailey! But not actually a professor.
Right, look at my notes.
Go on, you're
Right.
very organised.
I had to be because I was like, I know bits, but I don't know all of it.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope it comes back.
What
Go
do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about, what do you feel comfortable talking about? Buildings that women have built, or recognition, or both?
I think combination of the two.
Okay.
Combination of the two, because you have to talk about people's work ultimately.
Okay.
But it's also recognition and how unfair that's been. I mean, in particular, the one that's the total bugbear for me, and okay, it's not a Scottish thing, is South African architect Denise Scott Brown.
Denise Scott Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Denise Scott Brown. You know Denise Scott Brown? So this is with her husband, and he got the Pritzker Prize, and she didn't. And you don't know about this, like this whole campaign
no, tell me.
to, this is Robert Venturi and Denise Scott Brown. He's responsible for writing this book. This is before he gets married to her, called Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture, which is like one of the seminal architectural texts in the second half of the 20th century. And then together they write this book about Las Vegas and like looking for meaning in Las Vegas. It's just a really interesting book. And they are instrumental in postmodernism. So they both call themselves modernists. They're looking for the reform of modernism. They're a really interesting couple. And they are an artistic architectural couple. They're a couple, okay? That's the key thing.
So in a partnership, professional
Yes,
partnership,
professional
and
partnership,
relationship.
couple, yes,
Okay.
When it comes to the Pritzker in the 1990s, because they're producing like, great works like the Sainsbury wing of the, Museum of Trafalgar Square in London, which is, I keep wanting to say the British Museum. It's not the British
V&A.
Museum. It's not the V&A. It's the
London Museum?
galleries. It's
National Gallery.
the National Gallery. It's the National Gallery. So basically they win the competition for extending the National Gallery. And this has already been a hugely controversial competition because this is when Prince Charles intervened and called the winning design, this, carbuncle on the face of an old friend. And so, of course, it's huge for obviously a competition has to be rerun, and they end up winning the competition, and with a very clever design, which is all to do with taking influences from the original building, but working in a whole mix of architectural, quotes.
Mhm.
It's a really, really good building, which at the time, when it finally finished, a lot of scorn was poured on it, but now is being much more respected. Sadly, over the last couple of years, the entrance has been completely altered.
What's the time?
And so we're talking 1990s.
1990.
So they're a really interesting firm of architects. And he gets the Pritzker Prize. She gets no mention.
But who puts them forward?
I'm not entirely sure how the Pritzker will work, but the Pritzker is basically the world's greatest architectural prize you can get. You get these things like RBA gold medal, but the Pritzker is even more kind of meaningful.
Okay.
So he gets this huge architectural prize for their work, and there's a campaign over like the last decade or so for that to be rectified. She's in her 90s, she's still alive. And for that to be rectified, and which picks up after his death, and that, really something should be done about this. Huge campaign about it. And the Pritzker jury basically say, nah,
So they're
not
still refused?
not going to reverse it. And it's like, well, you should be giving her her own Pritzker Prize then, because this is a nonsense. They are clearly an artistic couple. Why did the woman lose out?
Patriarchy?
It's a total nonsense. So that kind of thing really, really annoyed me. And I just think it's totally not on. It's totally disrespectful. And she is a great architect.
Mhm.
She deserved that recognition too, and it should have been equal recognition for both parties. And it's the same with Charles Rowan Mackintosh and Margaret Mackintosh. Margaret MacDonald Mackintosh should get the
Some
same
recognition?
Yes, absolutely. They are an artistic partnership, and she clearly has a major influence on what he produces.
That's interesting you said that, because our whole conversation with Robin
Mm-hmm.
was about how do you denote collaborative practice
Yeah.
and where do you draw the line?
Yes.
So that's interesting you brought that up as well.
I mean, it's. I can appreciate why that is difficult, because obviously he goes and works in Honeyman Kepi and later Mackintosh, and it's a male environment, and he is producing his work there. But you can't just discount all the kind of the dialogue that he is having with her
No.
when he goes home. It's not as if he just stops thinking and creating. He's having this massive dialogue with her all the time.
That's exactly what we were talking about. We were
So-
talking about like him coming home and being like, darling, darling.
I know, exactly.
This is very fun.
It's a total nonsense to kind of, assume that doesn't exist. And their homes that they create together are clearly joint artistic creations, and that should be respected. Yeah, she should be acknowledged too. And to me, that's just a whole issue of basic fairness.
So what you're saying is, until we dismantle the patriarchy,
Where I come from, basically.
do you think women architects are recognised in the UK?
If that's the question, I think they are. And then people like Zara Hadid have made a massive difference, clearly. And there's a whole series of really interesting female architects who are getting much, much more recognition now.
I was wondering, because obviously last night I sat and went through the biographical dictionary of Scottish women. Guess how many architects are listed in it?
Oh God, don't tell me none.
Guess.
None.
3.
3, okay.
So we've got Margaret Brash Brodie, we've
Okay,
got Edith Burnett Hughes,
okay.
we've got Kathryn Findlay.
Right, okay. Yes, okay. Well, yes.
Do you know anything
Well,
about
that's-
Kathryn Findlay?
Kathryn Findlay, vaguely.
Connection to Japan?
Kathryn Findlay, of course, Kathryn Findlay. Oh, that's fantastic she gets mentioned there. Kathryn Findlay was lovely. She was really nice. Ushada Findlay, really, really interesting firm. I mean, she was hilariously bonkers, but in a completely sweet way. They had this great kind of upside down house where she created this patio out of balloons. So she was like, this is poured concrete in balloons, right?
Right.
So she had like this three-dimensional teardrop balloon shape, and then turned it upside down and then embedded it in the patio to create the shapes. It was fantastic. It was like sets, and it was really wonderful. She was I've never visited a house,
Right, okay.
but she was a really talented architect. I met her once at a talk and got chatting to her after the talk, and she was just lovely. She's a really nice person. A really nice person. I did really interesting work in Japan that she would not have been able to do here, just because of how Japan works in terms of the small construction firms and clients who are prepared to take a risk. You wouldn't have got the same kind of, far more conservative here. They wouldn't have let somebody take a risk like that.
That's interesting. I didn't know much about her.
She's really a genuinely lovely person. So was really sorry to hear about her death.
So what else did she produce? Because I've got, in Japan, she produced, is it the Truss Wall House?
Yeah, this Trussell House. I think this is Soft and Hairy House too. Yeah,
Say that again.
The Soft and Hairy House. So Asada Findlay, I'd have to go back and have a look at their work. I mean, God, I haven't looked at their work in donkey's years. But they were a really good firm. And I was really upset when I heard about her death because she died far too young. It was just like the most fantastic house. So that's the Soft and Hairy House.
See?
So
Soft and Hairy House.
How do I get that? There you go. The Soft and Hairy
Where's that?
House. So, well, it's all in Japan. So they did this really wonderful, whimsical work.
But I was just thinking, like last night, just as a scoping thing, having a look at the Biographical Dictionary of Scottish Women, I can't believe there's only 3. And don't get me wrong, that's from 2018.
Really?
Yeah, that's from 2018. There was only 3 that are included.
Right. It's a bit depressing.
I mean, it is, considering we've got so many
I know.
great female architects now.
Yes.
Like Jude Barber as well. That was the other one that I was...
Jude's great. I love Jude. I've been one of Jude's clients. Get me. I was Jude's client for the Make Your Mark charrette in East Pollokshield back in 2016. I think Jude's great and still really like her style and her ability, her empathy, her ability to connect with people, her kind of understanding of the holistic scheme of things rather than just approaching everything from, a very tangible built environment perspective. She gets that whole community perspective, and you absolutely need it if we are to kind of, be able to create and sustain and form good urban neighborhoods. She gets that totally, and she gets how ecology fits into that, and she gets the kind of whole multi-layering of a city. So I really like her, and I love the work that she's doing on the Who Owns the Clyde podcast, and the Empire Cafe has been really, really great work.
She's director of
Collective Architects. Yeah. Okay. So who are an interesting firm.
They were named the Architect Practice of the Year in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I'm interested in, and again, it's coming out of this idea of recognition, is she's instrumental in launching Voices of Experience.
Yes.
Do you know about them?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah. And that was a really good exhibition in the Lighthouse and really interesting. She was also working with Fiona Sinclair on that as well. I think, Fiona Sinclair, who I have enormous respect for.
I think everyone loves Fiona Sinclair.
It's always a real pleasure working with Fiona. She's good fun, and she's also really serious about her work as well. And you can't not respect somebody who's like that. So really value Fiona's opinion on things. And I don't know how she does it, to be honest with you. She must have a clone machine somewhere in the background that's churning out clones of Fiona, because she does so much work.
She's around all the time.
Yep. She covers so many projects, and I'm like, how do you do it? Must be like hugely organized, and is just very efficient, and does it all with a great sense of humor.
Dr. Mealy.
So how do you think Scottish women architects are remembered? Do you think there's a way? Because obviously they had the Blue Plaque scheme, which I think is currently on hold with his. Did you know about this?
Yeah, I did know about it.
Yeah, put it on hold.
Which I think is a great shame. I mean, particularly in Glasgow, and again, this is something I would love to look at in Glasgow. It's like projects I still haven't got around to doing and would love to do, is a way to address that kind of imbalance. It's ridiculous. I can't remember exactly how many plaques there are to women in Glasgow, but there were like 92 plaques in total, which was like way less than Edinburgh for a start, which is nonsense when you think that, Glasgow in its prime is like 3 times the size of Edinburgh. And that I tried to get one to Kate Cranston. The house that she built with John Cochrane, her husband, has been destroyed. There's nowhere technically to put the plaque, and you can't put the plaque. She lived in the North British Hotel, which is now the Millennium Hotel, for years. But you can't put a plaque on a commercial building. It's got to be on a domestic building. It's got to be on their home. Our final couple of years were spent in a main door flat on Treagles Avenue in Port Shields.
Right.
And so Port Shields Heritage applied for a plaque for her and were rejected, which I was astonished by because, Miss Cranston is like Charles Rennie Mackintosh's best patron.
What was their justification?
Oh, I can't even remember. This was a while back. So in the end, we were just like, we're just going to do it ourselves and put up a plaque to her. And I mean, it's sad because by that point, she was suffering from dementia. But apparently she liked being there because the sound of the trains going past in the Cathcart Circle reminded her taking the train from, Glasgow Central out to her home in Barrhead. She's such a powerful force in Glasgow in terms of how canny she was and how she operated and how she got her name in the phone book ahead of Stuart Cranston, which is very funny as well. Because she just put herself down as C. Cranston rather than anything about her, gender.
I think you'd have to be, isn't it?
And good for her. And then he dies, like, I don't want to say he dies a failure, but he overextends himself because he's got this idea of the tea room combined with the cinema. And gets John Eadney through this fantastic interior for him. It's a James Miller building on Renfield Street. So he does this kind of combined tea room cinema thing, and it fails because you're getting your tea served while you're trying to watch the cinema, and it's interrupted.
Which is now all the rage.
And I know, ironically, but at the time was not, and so it doesn't work. So he poured all this money into that, and so he dies. He doesn't leave a little flow of money, but when she dies, she leaves an absolute fortune because she's a really successful businesswoman. And it was interesting to, by complete coincidence, was on a tour yesterday of the Willow Tea Rooms. And the tour guide there, who's fantastic, was telling us about how Miss Cranston's employees then went off and were inspired by her to set up their own businesses. And so you got all of these women setting up businesses around Glasgow and elsewhere on the back of seeing her as this kind of inspirational figure, which was, I hadn't thought about that before. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I think the thing that always comes back to me with Cranston is our support of the arts as well. But I suppose that's a completely different podcast. But just the fact that she's using different women.
Yeah. So hearing about her business practices yesterday, I really wanted to know more about that. It was quite intriguing.
I think she definitely had a feminist strategy.
Oh, she definitely
in a time that
she had things like sick pay because there was no statutory sick pay or anything like that. So she would take so much every month, a wee deduction every month to ensure that if anybody was sick, that they were covered. And so that's
quite forward thinking.
That's
isn't it?
very forward thinking. Very.
They wouldn't give you a blue plaque.
I know, and you wouldn't give her a
They wouldn't give her a blue plaque.
And still a bit taken aback by that. And I would love to see that being properly rectified. I mean, it was a nice gesture by Port Shields Heritage, but seriously, it should be part of a national scheme.
Could there be another scheme in Glasgow?
You could, and you just have to make it.
Is there a body that could do it, Neil?
Can't think who. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in exploring that because I do feel there's a whole issue of fairness there. I mean, it's the same with, really biting the bullet here, George Square and the lack of female representation.
But I've got an issue with that because part of my point of view is love statues to bits, but they are kind of ingrained in the whole colonial.
Yeah, they are.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know.
It's very.
I know.
It's very manosphere, isn't it?
It is very manosphere, but then we are still producing statues and monuments to people.
We are.
So, and you've got, I mean, obviously there's a huge debate about what's happening in the Royal Mile at the moment, but then Muriel Spark is now going to get, a statue as well, which I think is fantastic. And it's an all-woman group of sculptures they're going to pick it from. Quite right.
I think with the whole statue aspect, I think there's other ways that women could be memorialised. Like Glasgow Women's Library is a great example. They do different things.
Yes. Yeah, I love Glasgow Women's Library. I think they do a phenomenal job. I have huge respect to them.
They're they make me feel warm inside.
Sue John has been so kind to Glasgow City Heritage Trust organisation. I mean, I know that they were like our grantees and we helped fund the repair of the building, but she's been great. And Adele Patrick.
Okay, I'll ask you this then, off the back of that. If there was one woman architect that you would want to memorialise in whatever way, who would it be and how would you do it?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, does this have to be a Scottish one or?
I'd prefer Scottish.
Probably Zaha Hadid. because
What did she do? Because not everyone's going to know what she's done.
okay, Hadid was, she's from this kind of generation that went through the Architectural Association in London in the 1970s. A really interesting generation comes out that. Not an awful lot is being built in the 1970s, so there's a lot of theory and thinking, and the Architectural Association in London is one of the center kind of places for where all that kind of thinking and theory comes together, and a whole different series of strands of kind of architectural approaches which emerge out of that. But it's because there's a really open culture in the school that's prepared to explore experimentation. And so Zaha Hadid comes out of that with these kind of amazing, she comes from a sort of mathematical background, but at the same time, her architecture is very much inspired by her paintings and her love of kind of Russian supremacism and constructivism. And it's this kind of combining the two. And the reason why I got to hear about her very, very early on in my life, and this was when I just had initially decided that I wanted to train as an architect, was because she won this amazing competition. And this was what made her career for the Peak Club in Hong Kong, which was literally right next door to where I lived in Hong Kong, and on the Peak in Hong Kong, which was very, very posh and very, very privileged existence, I have to say, which I probably didn't deserve, but well, that's life. Overlooking the whole of the city and straight down to the harbour and Kowloon side and all the skyscrapers in Hong Kong. She does this fantastic series of really expressionist paintings with this kind of super spiky city, and then this whole deconstructed idea of what she wants her building to look like flying out from the peak. And it's the most phenomenal painting. And then she has all of these other paintings showing how the dynamism of what she wanted to appear there. And it was basically, she wanted to cut into the hillside and polish the kind of the granite. Hong Kong's it's volcanic, so it's like a huge granite mountain, and so polishing up the granite of the hillside, and then have this kind of constructivist club and a series of beams flying off at angles from out of it and to the side of it, and with like swimming pools on it, club rooms. Absolutely amazing, kind of held together by cocktail sticks. And I mean, they're not cocktails, they're obviously, structural members and everything. Just phenomenal piece of design. It was Arata Isozaki, the Japanese architect, was who, she got her lucky break because of him, because he was on the jury for the competition, but his flight was delayed. And so he turned up late. And because he turned up late, the rest of the jurors had gone through the competition entries, and there was this pile of rejects to the side. And so he insisted on having a chance to review this pile of rejects. Mm-hmm. She's in amongst the rejects, and he retrieves her drawings and going, "Oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. What are you thinking?" And convinces the rest of the jury to back her. And so she wins this competition and gets massive kind of publicity on the back of it. And she is a really fascinating artist. And I have to be honest, I'm not always convinced by her work because it's very sculptural, mm-hmm. and it's not necessarily functional. And at times that causes an issue with me as an architect, because mm-hmm. I think function is important. Mm-hmm. And so, things like the Riverside Museum, which she was honest enough to admit that the Riverside Museum in Glasgow, which everybody calls a Zaha Hadid building, mm-hmm. is not actually her design. It's a design by her office, but it was not by her. Mm-hmm. So, and she was honest enough to admit that. She gave a big talk at the Kelvin Grove, and she credited the people in her office who were responsible for the project, which I thought was a very fair thing to do. I admire her because of that whole approach that she had. And that was a really tough thing to do. And she went through a really tough time on things like the Cardiff Bay Opera House. Mm-hmm. And the Cardiff Bay Opera House was a scandal. This was when the National Lottery was in its early existence, and Wales wanted an opera house. There was a site picked for it. There was a competition for this. She won the competition, and then people set out to sabotage her. And so she ends up having this fully developed scheme which could be readily taken to site, and it gets completely kiboshed, and she loses, it doesn't proceed, and they end up building something different on the site, another kind of big theatre performance-based building, which is still on the same site right next door to Cardiff Harbour. And it's quite an interesting building, but they lost a genuine, and it was she's also influenced by the work of Hans Scharoun, who's this German architect who does the Berlin Philharmonie and the Staatsbibliothek in the heart of Berlin, which are two of my favorite buildings. And I could see those qualities in her work. And so, and I think she was, she was completely thwarted there. But at the same time, that kind of, I think having been knocked back so publicly, that strengthened her determination. And so she ends up winning all these competitions. Like she does this fantastic vertical museum in the United States, which I was thinking about the other day would actually be a really good proposal for the Union Corner site, which probably people would be horrified hearing coming from me, where she takes the ground plane and wraps it up the wall and then has these galleries hanging off it. And I'm trying to think where it was. It might have been Cincinnati Art Gallery, the Rosenthal Center in Cincinnati. This is all before, when computers were still in their infancy. So she's doing interesting work. And I just thought, that was kind of interesting. Anyway, her offices end up going off in this kind of parametricism way. And she dies very tragically as well of a heart attack in Miami. And which I just thought was really sad because I didn't think she'd her career could have kept on going. And
that happened not long after the Riverside opened, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was really sad, really sad. And I just think she's a really interesting architect, even if I don't agree with all of her buildings and what she was doing. I mean, with the Riverside Museum, I have issues with the Riverside Museum that I think, in order to kind of get this kind of, how the idea, and she drew this idea that it's a combination of a city skyline with kind of the railway tracks and the confluence of the two rivers and how water flows together between the kind of the mouth of the Kelvin and the Clyde. That's where it's kind of the sinuous form of the museum comes from, and that cross section through it, the spiky cross section through it's meant to be a cityscape. But in order to achieve that, the steelwork that you need was, have you seen, there was a woman, and I can't remember her name, but it was a really good painter. And she did these fantastic paintings all the way through the construction sequence. And she absolutely caught the site really, really well. And it was this point during the construction sequence when the steelwork hadn't been covered up and it was all still exposed, and it is the most powerful steelwork. And for me, the problem with that building is that, one, you ended up with no more floor space than you had in around the corner in the Kelvin Hall.
Yeah.
And yet it was really expensive because of all the steelwork needed to create that kind of structural form. And that steelwork was so sculpturally incredibly powerful, and then they covered it all up. So you can't see any of it. And to me, that was like so frustrating because it was the steelwork, the money was in the steelwork. But that was, if you go for Zaha Hadid, and she was what was called a star architect, who had basically was this generation of architects who were in orbit and they would descend on your city to give them their glamour. So that's what she was. If you want that, that's what you're going to get.
And that's what we got.
But you wanted a signature building, so you got a signature building.
So, okay, on that note then, how would you commemorate her in whatever way?
I mean, in some ways, it's a bad choice on my part because she is already being commemorated. She had bought the Design Museum in London for her archive not long before she died. And
that's more her protecting her legacy.
Yes, absolutely.
But what about in Scotland?
Oh, in Scotland, I don't really know.
What do you think would be appropriate for her?
I think you'd have to have some kind of memorial at the Riverside Museum, maybe overlooking the Clyde. I don't know. And it would have to be something like wonderfully supremacist and over the top. No, you really have to. It would be really good fun. You could have a lot of fun with it.
You could.
So she's such a heroic architect because she was really going for it. And I have to respect that when somebody actually pulls out all the stops and just goes for it and just takes no prisoners. And she would do that all the time.
Oh,
you have to respect that. She's not boring. I suppose, I mean, the thing she would be talking about things like the Market Cross and the fact that you've got this amazing recreation of the Market Cross in the heart of Glasgow, literally occupying the heart of Glasgow. And it's all women. They're involved in it. And Margaret Cross Findlay Primrose, or is it Margaret? I can never get
Margaret Primrose Findlay.
Primrose Findlay.
She did the sculptures.
Primrose Findlay.
And the wooden
sculptures on the outside and the wooden carvings in as well. She does the models for them, and then they get modelled by Archibald Dawson. But they are so beautiful.
They're
and
really
so
cute.
charming. And yeah, it's such, and then it's Edith Burnett Hughes, who does the actual building itself. And then Helen Lamb, who does the writing inside the memorial box and the inscriptions, which are beautiful. William Black and Annie Blackie Black, who have this gift. And William Black he's an interesting figure too. Did you know that he did the Line Chambers? Line Chambers is,
I think it's been mentioned.
which is why it's got such a weird program inside it of like, the southern half is Solicitor's Office, northern half is all
I've only been in it
Artist Studios. So
is it, you can't get into it, can you?
there'll be somebody who's got the keys. So, but it's that, when I discovered that there was that link between the two of them, and he's a member of the art club and on the board of the Glasgow School of Art. And just thinking, what a fantastic gesture to say, right, okay, there you go. In honor of my wife, I'm going to dedicate this Murcutt Cross. So good for him.
That's interesting.
But it's just like the fact that it's all woman is really interesting.
But I think it's also really important, especially for that time.
Absolutely. Really important for that time.
And also, every single woman you mentioned there, the three of them, they're all members of the Glasgow Society of Lady Artists.
Right.
So they would be hanging out in 5 Wisewood Square. But also they all trained at GSA.
Yeah.
So there's that connection as well.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, last question, because we'll finish up. I didn't prep you on this. If there was one book you would tell people to read about Scottish history or Scottish architecture, or one individual, what would you pick? I know, if I didn't tell you because I knew you'd prep it.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair enough.
It can be a fiction book as well. Like, this is something else, or it can be a resource.
I did make Denise Mina laugh last month, which was quite funny. I got interviewed by her for Archive on 4.
Was it?
Radio 4. It was just about like governor baths and municipalisation in Glasgow, and like, the need for sanitary provision and everything. I was said to her at the start, I really liked your novel, The Long Drop.
Are you going?
I need to go to it. I didn't realise that it had been turned into a play, and so I need to go and see it. And
well, let me, if you want to go, I want to go as well, and he wants to go with me.
Well, I would go with you because I loved that book. It was a fantastic book. And anyway, at the start of it, I said, I really loved your novel because at the start of it, you've got this whole scene set in this pub in the Gorbals and Borston, and you're describing what the cityscape is like, and the kind of, the age of the stone and it's falling apart, and the kind of the weather, and said you absolutely, totally set the scene for Glasgow there, and you captured the city so well. And she was like, oh my God, no one has ever said that about it. Everyone just focuses on the murder.
You're geeking out on the detail.
Geeking out on the detail. Yeah. So that made me laugh.
That's a good example.
I would have to go back and probably say Poor Things, Alistair Gray, but I'm still aware of the fact that it's written by a man. But then on the other hand, and what really, when I finally did get to see the film,
a feminist though.
I know. But when I finally did get to see the film, the film was a massive disappointment.
I loved the film.
I kind of did, but they lopped out the final third of the book.
It was also because they lobbed out the city.
Well, yeah,
I was very upset about that.
I was upset because they lobbed out Glasgow, but then lobbing out the final third of the book was unforgivable in my view, because, and also, I mean, they lobbed out the starting point of the book when. And particularly because it's the reference to Michael Donnelly and
Elspeth
King and the work they're doing, and this kind of, this firm of solicitors, which I'm pretty convinced that where the building is on St Vincent Street, and if this finds the stuff out the front, and it's so funny because it's so Glasgow that is exactly what did happen, and then they try and get it back. But it was to hear her side of the story in the final third, and I thought it had real pathos to it, and it really touched me. And then just to lop it out as though it was irrelevant was just like, oh my God, man, you completely missed the point of that book. Even with Lanark, which everyone describes as, really difficult read, and I loved. And because he captures Glasgow so well in it.
Well, this is the thing about Alistair Gray. He records the city as the city is.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, I don't think you get anything.
Yeah.
Nothing touches it.
Yes.
But also just the fact that his wife was like his muse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he always portrayed her as being very strong.
Yeah.
I loved.
Yep.
No, I completely agree. Okay, so the two books that you would suggest if anybody wanted to find out about Glasgow, maybe, would be The Long Drop.
Yes.
And Poor Things.
Yep.
Both fiction books. It is a very good book.
Yeah.
Love Alistair Gray.
Yeah.
I think that's us.
Okie dokie. Well, it was good fun.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Around the Studios, why not tell your pals? You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Threads.
It's Around the Studios.